There's a land that I have heard about so far across the sea. There's a land that I have heard about so far across the sea.
My name is Judith Shaw. When my mother passed away in 2020, I decided to turn my immense grief into something positive and enrolled on a media course at UA92 in Manchester. My mother came to the UK in the era referred to as the Windrush generation. She was escaping domestic violence in her hometown in Jamaica. This is the suitcase that she arrived with, and growing up I always used to look at this case and wonder how on earth she had the courage to leave her homeland and take that massive step into the unknown. This journey happened to many people, all for different reasons and all with different stories to tell. The Windrush scandal came to light in 2017 and alerted the world to many tales of injustices. This year, I was introduced to a wonderful project that told the stories of some of these people, the forgotten generations. I travelled to Birmingham to speak to the founder, ex-RAF serviceman Donald Campbell. It's a real pleasure being here today, and thank you for meeting with me. Before we talk about the forgotten generations, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So good afternoon, Judith, and thank you very much for involving the forgotten generations in your project. My journey is that I was born in Jamaica, and I was left as a 4-year-old by my father. He came to England, and then later on my mother left us as children when I was 7.
Why did you join the RAF?
So I came to England age 13, went to school, and while I was at school, for some reason it came into my head that I wanted to be military. I then approached my teacher and said that I wanted to join the military, and he said which one. And the Royal Air Force suited me best in terms of what they had to offer. So they said to me that I'll be working with aircraft and travelling, so perfect. Because I lived in Birmingham City as well, which is for me was a bit claustrophobic, and I knew there was a bigger world out there. I wanted to see that bigger world and travel, meet people, so the Air Force was for me. It was so much more than I expected, you know, working on fast jets and helicopters and meeting people all around the world, from Northern Ireland to the Falklands to USA, Canada, Belize, and lots of other countries. It was just, I just think I was very fortunate. I tell people that I went to the University of Life.
Right, so now on to the forgotten generations. What is the forgotten generations?
The Forgotten Generation is a company that I founded 18 months ago. And the reason why I founded this company was to record and archive the contributions of African and Caribbean people, as in British African and Caribbean people, of what they have done for Britain and beyond, because I realized that a lot of this information is not known. And even more so, this sort of information should be taught in the schools to youngsters, to educate them of what their foreparents have done.
Yeah.
Because their foreparents are trailblazers. So, you know, the fact that they're not taught about what their foreparents have done is somewhat of an injustice, really, because I think all history should be taught in school. So the Forgotten Generations is really behind the idea of getting a permanent fixture of black history in the national curriculum.
I've looked at many of the stories on the website, and I've picked out 3 for us to talk about today. The first one being Herbert Morris. Tell me about him.
So the Forgotten Generation website is an educational tool with so many different and varied information on it. Some are military and some are civilians. And the striking military ones are, as you mentioned, Herbert Morris, which was in the First World War, because black people weren't allowed to join the military, as in Navy, Army, Air Force per se. And a lot of them wanted to defend the mother country because they thought about England or UK as the mother country. They wanted to join and to do their bit to defend the mother country and also to defend the Caribbean, because the Germans were also in the Caribbean with the U-boats, etc. So the way out was to formulate what they called the British West Indies Regiment, which was formed down in Seaford in Essex in 1915. They had 11 battalions, and young Herbert Morris left Jamaica when he was 16. Herbert Morris ended up in France with the 6th Battalion. And while he was there, he wandered away from his post. And the second time that he did it, they decided to court-martial him. Now, back in those days, they made an example of anybody who left their post, regardless of the reasons, whether they were ill or not. And Herbert Morris was tried in court-martial, and during the court-martial he said to the judge, "Sir, all I can hear is noise in my head." So you can imagine, age 17, having left the Caribbean 5,000 miles away, and he's still a child, and to be standing there on his own, really without much of a help, and being court-martialed to be shot at dawn, which is what he was, shot at dawn, by his own countrymen. That was somewhat of an injustice. So on the 20th of September 1917, Herbert Morris was shot at dawn.
That's so sad. Right, so let's move on to Johnny Smythe. Tell me about him.
So Johnny Smythe is a Sierra Leonean from West Africa, who also joined the Royal Air Force, but he was in the Second World War, and by this time the coloured bar had broken down. So he joined as an officer. He flew quite a few missions, and on the 27th mission he was shot down and became a prisoner of war. He spent his 2 years, and later he was actually freed by the Russians. He then eventually got back to Britain and joined the Air Force again. He was the one that managed the Windrush ship to the Caribbean and back from the Caribbean, which was quite something.
On to Mr. Jarrett, who I had the pleasure of meeting this year.
Yeah, that was fantastic, and it was so good that you've met Mr. Jarrett on such a fantastic occasion as carrying the baton as the second oldest war veteran. We travelled all over England, meeting the Prime Minister, Prince William, and the Defence Secretary, and etc., etc. And he's also been interviewed many times, radio, TV, newspapers, so he was excellent. So Mr. Jarrett, for me, left a legacy, and that legacy was to actually advertise the other veterans that probably didn't get a chance for us to hear their voice. But he was great. He was a great individual, and it's like one half of me is gone, really. The fact that he carried the baton on the Tuesday and died the following Tuesday is a great miss. So he'll be forever remembered, really.
Yeah, I mean, we had a massive campaign to raise awareness about him carrying the baton. It was so great to see all the communities across the UK join together,
holding up the flag and saying, "March on, Mr.
Mr. Jarrett."
Mr. Jarrett, march on! Hey! It's on! Keep it rolling, Mr. Jarrett, march on! Keep it rolling, Mr. Jarrett, march on!
March on, Mr. Jarrett, march on!
March on, Mr. Jarrett, march on! March on!
March on, Mr. Jarrett, march on!
We even had a song about it by Negus.
Yes,
yeah. I found it fantastic.
It was a great time.
War veteran, our hero, 98-year-old, Mr. Jarrett, Marcher, cheery man.
Just tell me a little bit about the logbook project.
So the logbook project is where Nicholas Devoy, the son of Cyril Devoy, is sending his father's logbook around the world to collect signatures of World War II veterans.
Oh wow.
And it's a fantastic project really, and it's gaining momentum all the time. Fortunately, I was able to get Mr. Jarrett to sign it before he passed away, which was absolutely fantastic. And it's also been in lots of different countries, you know, from Japan to USA to Caribbean, all over the place.
Okay.
Excellent project.
The logo for Forgotten Generations is taken from the Forward Together monument in Birmingham city centre. What does this monument signify and how does it relate to you?
Well, the monument Forward Together is a monument representing the industry and people of Birmingham. Mm-hmm. So there are 25 people on this particular monument from different races, colour, creed, and also disabilities to represent the people of Birmingham, and actually linked to a chain that's linked to the coat of arms, pulling the coat of arms into the 21st century. And I was very fortunate that I was asked to be a part of that particular project. So I'm a part of the monument. So when I started the Forgotten Generations, I wanted to make a logo, and I thought, why not use my head of that particular monument of me to make the logo? So
perfect. Right, finally, Donald, what are your hopes for the Forgotten Generation?
Education is key. So the whole of the Forgotten Generation is all about education, education, education.
Well, it was lovely speaking to you, and thank you very much for what you're doing, telling the stories. Yeah, it's really important, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and it's great to know that there's people like yourselves out there that are interested in this sort of thing that we're doing, and the government also so far has been interested because we got a Points of Light award from the Prime Minister for the work that we're doing. So we're obviously going in the right direction.
Yes, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It has been a very emotional time for me learning about the struggles faced by the people of the Forgotten Generations. A song that has always resonated with me is Dreamland by Marcia Griffiths, especially the line, "Surely we'll never die." I reached out to local artist Misha B and the band Rough Trade to recreate this song. I wanted to pay tribute to members of my community who have their own stories about coming to the land of their dreams. I reached out on social media for photographs of loved ones from the Windrush era who had passed away. I used the song as the backdrop for the tribute.
There's a land that I have heard about so far across the sea. There's a land that I have heard about so far across the sea. dreamland, and we'll have so much fun. We'll live together on that dreamland, and we'll have so much fun.